What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazaba, and this is Moving and Living and Moving to Seattle, Washington. This is the channel that gives you all the nitty-gritty details of what it's like to live, work, eat, sleep, play right here in the Pacific Northwest, the Emerald City, Seattle, Washington. And in this video, we're going to talk about cost of living and if Seattle is affordable. If you haven't already, hit that notification bell, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff so that you know every time we drop a new video. And reach out to us if you're considering making a move out this way. We're helping people all the time. We'd love to work with you too. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can brainstorm some ideas to help you get into a great place and help you find one that matches your lifestyle that you plan on living right here in Seattle, with all the, the lakes, the rivers, the mountains, and all that fun stuff, and the restaurants. We'll get you dialed in. If you haven't already noticed, if you've seen a few of these videos, I have a ton of resources down below in the description. And one of those resources is the Next Steps method, which is our way that we help people. So if you're curious about what it's like to work with us, give that guide a quick review and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. Like I said, in this video, we're gonna talk about the cost of living in 2023. So when I was doing my homework on this, I've only ever lived full-time in the Pacific Northwest. I spent few months up in Alaska working in the summer. I've traveled a bunch, but I've only ever really truly lived in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up just outside of Gig Harbor on the Key Peninsula between Gig Harbor and Port Orchard. I lived for a short amount of time out in Hoquiam down towards the ocean, trying to catch more waves out that way. It totally didn't work. Living out there, and I've lived up here in Seattle for a number of years now. So when I look into the cost of living, to me, everything just is as it always has been. But doing my homework, I found that, hey, Seattle has a fairly high cost of living. So you got to be prepared for that. So I've got my notes here. I'm going to run down. I got a few things I want to be sure to talk about and hit you guys with some information so that you can make a really good, well-educated decision with little to no speculation about what it's like to live out here. That's why we put together all these videos. So to kind of be your relocation guide. So one of the first things that I noticed is that when you look up rents in the area, they say the average one-bedroom rent is about $2,000. But that isn't what we see in some of the top neighborhoods. We see quite a bit more. So just in Ballard alone, you can spend $2,600 a month on a one-bedroom apartment. It can range anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 depending on what neighborhood you're in. So if you're paying rent, comparable to buying a home, obviously it's so much cheaper to rent up front because you don't have to come up with a down payment. You don't have to come up with closing costs, but you're, throwing that money away each month. When you buy a home, right, it's just all that home has to do is appreciate by 10%, and you have saved all that money. Instead of giving that money to your landlord, you kind of put it in the piggy bank of your own home so that those monthly payments come back to you. And so for a lot of folks, that's why they want to buy a home. It's a lifestyle choice, and they're not just throwing out that money. And owning a home actually gives people a ton more options because you can keep it as a rental, you can do the short-term rental thing, you can house hack and get people, your roommates basically, to help you pay for that asset, right? But when I look at rents, just comparatively, there were some articles a while ago that pit Seattle against New York City and against San Francisco and the Bay Area, that, for what we do for wages here, for what it costs to live, Seattle is one of the more expensive areas to live in. And that's fairly typical for your coastal cities of the size, right? So just know coming in that if you're coming from Georgia, if you're coming from Kentucky, if you're coming from, somewhere in the middle, Texas, it's going to be a very, very different price point for what you get, but hopefully you're in a position where you're going to also be making a considerable amount more as well. So just know that ahead of time. So let's talk about groceries and going out for food and drinks and that sort of thing. So being from the Northwest, and I used to even work at Costco when I was in my young 20s. I love Costco. So I think I got this jacket at Costco, right? So Costco is a semi-religion for some folks, right? You go to Costco, people that love it, They go there, they buy a ton of stuff, bulk buy food. They, have a ton of stuff that when I worked there, they used to carry a 5-gallon bucket full of mayonnaise. There's no reason a real person would ever need that, but they were doing, restaurant supply kind of thing, and that's where that comes in. So the reason I bring up Costco is because you never get out of Costco without spending at least $100. And so, for a long time when we watched our grocery budget, we would spend, $20 a week or something like this on groceries. But it's very, very easy. We have a lot of high-end grocery stores. We've got Sprouts, we've got Whole Foods, PCC, all these places. $20 is not going to get you very far. And if you think about, going in to get a quick bite to eat, like a breakfast sandwich, that's almost $8. Plus, you're going to get maybe a smoothie that's $5, $4, right? So things can add up. Planning ahead is going to go a long ways. But it's very, very easy to spend money on groceries if you're not planful and mindful of what you're going to be making for dinner. And I know during the pandemic, the early days of that pandemic, we got about 3 months into that, and people were tired of making their own food. So it's definitely worth spending a little time in the kitchen and figuring out whether or not you can do some meal prepping to save yourself some time and energy and effort, and put some more bucks in your pocket. When it comes to going out for dinner, I was looking stuff up, trying to see, and people say you can spend an average of $30 going out, but I can't even imagine, you go out to dinner, $30 might get you a plate, if you're going out for dinner. If you're doing cocktails, it's easy to spend $12 to $15 on a cocktail. Beers are $8 now, $7, $8. So you could spend an easily $60 going out to dinner. Lunch, easily $30. So I don't know, in the research, if that's the average cost of a meal for $30, but going out to dinner and drinks, I was just going out with some friends, and we just went to one of our favorite pubs it's called Prost. It's a German bar in Phinney Ridge. And it's $8 to $10 a beer. So I'm just not even counting the food that we got, spent $30 on having 3 beers. So very, very expensive to go out, especially as we watch things shift and change through with this economic period where we've seen some inflation. You used to be able to go out and get a beer for $5. Now it's a solid $7 to go to some of the craft breweries and get a beer from them. And like I said, I don't go out to dinner that often, but when I do, it's not uncommon to spend $30 on just the dinner alone, aside from drinks. So wherever you're coming from, that might be a little bit different than what you're used to paying. We've definitely seen over the last year or so that those prices have gone up, and we even saw early in the pandemic when people were doing takeout, people were paying more than full price for a dining experience, but getting that money for that food to take home. So something to be cognizant about. Yelp is actually a decent resource to look at some of those restaurants and see what the prices are, check out those menus. Hopefully those guys have updated that stuff, but it can be quite expensive if your lifestyle is going to be going out for drinks and dinner all the time. Personally, I do a lot of meal prep. I pack a lunch. And we only go out to eat with friends or on special occasions, so save some bucks doing that. So let's talk about heating and cooling and just your cost at the house. When I rented an apartment, my heating, water bill, sewer, and trash was next to nothing. The building, we had a supplement a little fee that we paid to the building to handle all that for us, and it was really, really, really affordable. In that regard. When we moved to a townhouse, I was shocked at how much our water bill was, because the water and sewer, it's almost like because they have to process all of the water that comes out through the sewer bill is oftentimes, it feels like about twice as much as your water bill, right? So it can easily, you get billed bi-monthly, so every time you get billed, it's easy to see a $300 charge on that. It's about $150 a month that way, and you see that bill come through. Electricity, as far as Washington State's concerned, the electricity here is some of the cheapest in the nation, right? We have, I think it's the Columbia, I can't remember the name of the dam down at the Columbia, but because we have river water, coming through and generating power, we have a lot of electricity that we actually sell down the West Coast to other places, and because we have so much water here as well, we also sell that off to other places as well. So, but that electricity cost is fairly inexpensive. Seattle is one of the places that it really can make a lot of sense to own an electric car, because plugging it in, you're paying less per kilowatt hour than you would be in other places. Insofar as heating and cooling, the gas, they're building less and less, I think, in Seattle with gas connections. And so the gas bill, my whole place, my oven, my water heater, and my heating system in the house is all connected to that water heater. So it's all the gas that runs that, and that's pretty inexpensive. It's almost cheaper for me to fill a pot with cold water and put it on the stove to heat it up versus waiting for hot water to come out of the tap. Like, it's so cheap. The gas is really reasonable, and electricity is really reasonable. It's that water and sewer bill that really come and get you. So when it comes to heating, we talked about, this morning it snowed. It snowed in Seattle this morning. It's early still. I guess it's Valentine's Day that we're filming this. So it snowed, and that's typical what I share with people. Most normally we get our snowiest, winteriest bit of weather between Valentine's Day and President's Day. So we'll see what the rest of this week holds for us. It snowed a little bit on the east side last night, and down south as well. And when you think about the cost of heating the home and what that looks like, Seattle's fairly temperate. We go through some cold snaps, we go through some heat waves, but typically, even in the winter, just a month ago, it was around 40 degrees. We had a nice late January into early February where it barely rained, and we had decent sunshine and blue skies. And so that was around, we had some cold snaps where it dipped down into freezing, but typically it's right around 40 degrees. And then our highs are typically 70 degrees. So you're not spending a tremendous amount of heating and cooling your home. You're not spending a tremendous amount of energy or spending a lot of money doing that, because we're so temperate. Now, when it gets hot, not a lot of houses here have AC. It's kind of a new thing still to Washington to have mini splits, to have forced air conditioning with heat pumps. It's becoming more and more prevalent because we do see a lot of days up above 80 where people want that. But typically, most of the houses don't have air conditioning still. And so you got to be cognizant of that, because you're going to probably go buy one of those rollers from Costco, right? Back to Costco again, but one of those units that you can roll around. That's what we have at our place, so that you can have some of those, that cooling. And luckily electricity is fairly cheap. So just know that it's not your heating and cooling that really weighs you down insofar as cost of living here. It's that water, right? Running that water, you almost get billed 3 times for it, because the sewer is twice as much. That's really where the big expense is. When it comes to public transportation, depending on your lifestyle, right? Like I talked about, I'm just keep going back to this Costco thing. It's hard to take the bus to Costco and buy any amount of things, because hauling all that stuff home on the bus, it's doable, yeah, but I have a car, so it's much easier to do that in a car. But for about $100, $120, depending on where you're going and commuting, you could really use the metro system here, the buses, the light rail, to get around really easily and commute in and out of work if you need to. A lot of the jobs, are hybrid. It's fairly simple. We have a Orca card that you can put your money on, and then you just use that card to tap into the bus, and then you tap in and tap out of the light rail. If you forget to tap out, you get charged the full fare for the run, which the run is getting longer and longer, so I don't know how they'll manage that in the future, but it is fairly affordable to use the transportation system, even if you've got to commute. I have some clients that moved over to Bremerton. They ride their bike to the ferry, and then they would do the walk-on fare, and they only pay a few bucks to get to Seattle, and then it's free to go to Bremerton. I think that's how it works. So it's fairly inexpensive to do stuff like that, but it is a consideration of your time. It's often takes 3 times to 4 times as long to use public transportation as it would to use your own car. So if you're moving here thinking, hey, I don't want to have to own a car at the expense of paying, especially in Capitol Hill, because you have to pay for zone parking. If you're not driving all the time or going up to the mountains, you can even rent zip cars that'll get you up to the mountains. And some of those companies, I think they're still around, but they actually encourage. They have the state park pass already in the car, and they encourage you to go use them. So that can be an affordable way to borrow a car or get out and use that car to go to the park or whatever. If you don't have a car and the transit isn't going to get you where you want to go. But if you live in like Capitol Hill, even Ballard, parts of West Seattle where it's connected for a little closer into Alki, even Columbia City or Rainier Beach, those all have Othello, Hillman City. All those places have really good connections to either the bus system, even Burien, which technically isn't Seattle. It's a different city just south of West Seattle White Center. Burien has such a good transit system that a lot of folks I know choose to live in Burien versus West Seattle because they want to use that public transportation to be able to get to their job in Seattle. So all in all, for $150, you could really make use of that transit system and be able to live here without a car, pending, of course, you're gonna have to gauge that with your major shopping halls if you're gonna be able to negotiate all your groceries onto the bus, which just get a really nice backpack, sturdy backpack. You'd probably be able to do most of that. When it comes to staying fit, obviously we've got all these outside activities you can do. Seattle has a ton of stairs. A friend of mine went and hit all of the local stairs and kind of ticked this box of being able to do all these public stairs, mountain climbers basically, to get into shape. And it's definitely something that you can do is go outside. We have fairly temperate weather. We do have a lot of drizzle and rain that comes through, so you just got to be prepared for that. But if you're going to join a gym for $35, even I think Planet Fitness is cheaper, but for like $35 to $60 a month, you can join a gym, showers, all that stuff right there. LA Fitness is a gym through here. The one of the nicest gyms I've ever seen is the Olympic Athletic Club in Ballard, and they've got chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It looks really, really posh. But there are a lot of different places, and there's a lot of different types of fitness, Pilates places, and I think one of them is called Bear, something like this. But there's a lot of different places. There's even the Ballard Boxing Club, the BBC, all kinds of different. Once you get into CrossFit, it starts to get a little bit more expensive, but that can be a solid 45-minute workout that really, really gets you where you need to go, so it could be worth doing. But there are tons of opportunities to join indoor gyms, and you can really get in affordably, or depending on your budget and desire, you can get in and spend quite a bit of money, but you get a good pump out of it, so it might be worth it to you. And then there's other things like the rock climbing gyms and stuff like that some of them have other weightlifting and different stuff like that inside the rock climbing gym that you can use, and those are pretty reasonable as well. So when I think about the cost of living in Seattle, it really is a lot of lifestyle choices. You could join a yacht club, join one of the sailing clubs, you could be a part of your local gym, you could be a part of multiple. I know folks that are join multiple gyms so that no matter where they are throughout the city, they can get a good workout in. Between the rents here, even for just a 1-bedroom, you can kind of look at, hey, is it worth it to me to live in the core and have walking access to all of this for the amount? Or does it make more sense for me to live further away? Because rents we start to see in some of those more popular places can add up. And then when you own your own home, you're looking at, hey, power, water, sewer, garbage and trash is fairly inexpensive, but that water bill will surprise you because of the sewer aspect of it. But other than that, along with home maintenance, if you're buying a single family detached home, if you're doing all the work, awesome. If you're paying someone to come in and keep your lawn tidy and trim your hedges, that's another expense to look at as well that can add up fairly quickly. But I was really surprised, again, just to know that, compared to anywhere else you could live, the cost of living in Seattle is fairly expensive, but that comes with the opportunity, with the economy that we have here. And it's a balance that you're gonna have to try to make and figure out, hey, is this the right spot for me? If you get a great job offer, it's definitely worth coming to check out and seeing how you can make it work for you, because there are opportunities to live in the suburbs outside of Seattle, spend a little bit less, and still have a great lifestyle. If you need us for anything, shoot us a call, give us a text. We'd love to brainstorm with you and see how we can help you make a move to the area. All the contact info is down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that notification bell so that you know every time we have a new video coming out, and we will see you in the next video. Talk to you.